Welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And that, of course, is cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What's up, you old Tennessee Hober?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Hey, let us know if you can hear us. Let us know if you can see it. Apparently, this is a daily exercise we got to go through here, Shane. People say it's good, then people say it ain't good. So we literally don't know until you tell us.
Absolutely. I turned mine a little up. He turned his a little down, so we'll see how it plays out.
And Shane, I let him know in the comments that you were just a couple minutes behind. I just joking, but I said, your shift at the Waffle House running late. Shout out cousin Dakota. He says Shane was covered and smothered over there. So,
I've told you a little bit. I put in, back in the day when you got drunk, everybody knows we've all been kids, and then you had a designated driver take you to Waffle House. Mm-hmm. That was one of the best parts, not just the food, but going to the jukebox and picking out some jams. You're just kind of just a nightcap. You know what I'm saying? Some of the best moments I ever had was in a Waffle House, and everybody's like, well, obviously, obviously you've had too many moments in that Waffle House.
Cousin Jared says, sound good and look good. All right. Appreciate you, Jared. So
4K coming through, baby.
All right. So show topic for today, Shane. We had so much fun on the last episode, kind of going through the projected point spreads by CFB Professor. Go check that out. If you haven't already on yesterday's show, go check out the CFB Professor's Patreon if you haven't already and you got a couple bucks to spare. I know he would certainly appreciate it, but I thought it'd be fun, Shay, because again, this is not necessarily our list, but I don't know about you, but when I got my Athlon, when I got my Lindy's and all that, I love looking at the schedules, and you have some that are determined, you think in the preseason, we can win this one, we can lose this one, but there's 2 or 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 6, Shade, toss-up games that'll determine the success or the failure of our season. So the ones that the CFB Professor had as toss-ups, we're going to run through them and say how many does each team need to win for their season to be determined a success by the fans. How's that sound, buddy?
It sounds good because we all do it. Every single person listening to this show right now is doing it right now. You're looking at your list and you're saying, hey, those are easy wins. Those are probably going to be a loss. And those, we may get them. We may catch them. So I think that's what we do here in the offseason. We get a little, maybe over-optimistic. And that's why it hurts sometimes when you get that first loss or maybe that one toss-up game that you penciled in loosely as a win and it becomes a loss. You're like, damn, we needed that one.
Right. And again, also, Shane, I think just, one step further, I don't want to make this too complicated here, but if
please do, Mike, please.
If there's any that we disagree, like this ain't a toss-up game, but maybe this one over here is, we could point those out as well as we go along, if that sounds good.
No, I think that's great because going off this list, I felt like there were some that should have been toss-ups and maybe some that shouldn't have been.
Right. Oh, and we're going to start with Ole Miss because cousin Brandon gave us $5 donation.
Hit that button, cousin.
Howdy, toddy, Brandon. But, one other thing real quick. Special shout out, cousin Tanya. We sent her a Mizzou koozie, Shane.
Yeah.
She sent us some spices for she said for wings are really good, steak, veggies, what have you. So, cousin Tanya, we do appreciate these, and we will put these to good use. You better believe it. You know what?
Absolutely. Frozen. I'm sensing a theme here from Mizzou. We got frozen pizzas. We got chips. We've got season. I love it. Yeah, any type of food source that you want to send our way, damn well we're going to consume it. Or at least one of us.
Right. All right, Shade. So, again, throw us a donation if you want your team to be featured. Otherwise, we're just going alphabetical order. But cousin Brandon hit us up with some money. So, we're going to start with Ole Miss, Shane. Again, let's pull up their schedule real quick. And real quickly here, Shane, I'm going to run down, again, CFB Professor projected spreads for the Ole Miss Rebels this season. Furman, favored by 45. Ole Miss, of course, favored. Ole Miss favored against MTSU by 42.5. At Wake Forest, Ole Miss favored by 16.5. Georgia Southern favored by 31. Kentucky favored over 13. At South Carolina, we're favored by 12.5. Now here's the three toss-ups. At LSU, it's got LSU favored by 4. Oklahoma in Oxford, believe it or not, Shane. No. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. Ole Miss favored by 2.5 over Oklahoma in Oxford. They're favored over Arkansas by 13.5. Georgia favored in Oxford by 9.5. At Florida, ooh, buddy, Ole Miss only favored by 2, so that's a toss-up. And then Mississippi State, that's a home game, favored by 24 in the Egg Bowl. So basically, again, what we're doing here, Shane, according to these numbers, Ole Miss projected to be 8-1 before we get to these 3 toss-up games at LSU, Oklahoma at home, and at Florida. How many of the 3 toss-ups does Ole Miss need to win this season to keep their fan base happy?
Well, Mike, one second. Of course, I would have technical issues here. So, all right, I think I've got her squared away here. I think, we've had several. We just had an awesome interview. I don't know if you've got a chance to check it out, but Saturday, there's expectations coming from Ole Miss. Ole Miss fans looking at this list right now, I think they strongly disagree with what you just threw out as toss-up games. I think the toss-up games, as an Ole Miss fan, is LSU and Georgia. Those are the only 2 toss-up games that they're expecting to have this year. So when you tell me must win, well, Oklahoma in this scenario is a must win. Florida is definitely a must win. I think that's where we're at here. Ole Miss would be derailed, disappointed, pissed off if they fall short of a 10-win season. So, I understand the analytics and the computer side of things, but I guarantee if you poll the Ole Miss fans right now, they may have 2 games penciled as a toss-up here. Am I wrong?
Well, we ain't doing what the fans thinking are going to be a win, not going to be a win. We're saying, of these toss-ups, Shane,
I know.
which ones does Ole Miss have to win to keep the fan base happy? So you're counting Georgia as a toss-up. I don't understand that. I don't care where that game's played. You take a non-Georgia fan, you take a non-Ole Miss fan, I would bet 95 out of 100 are going to say, yeah, Georgia's going to win that game. So we can't be calling these toss-ups. I mean, they can, but that's not the computers.
I know. I get it. And that's why I was going to have a little problem understanding this topic today, because I just think when we started it, you said, hey, we're pulling an Athlon magazine and you're looking which one's the fans going to be. I truly think this year Ole Miss fans feel like Georgia will be a toss-up. I don't think that sounds too crazy. Now, as an outsider, I thought you brought up a good point there. If you're talking about a non-Ole Miss fan, non-Georgia fan, they would not consider this a toss-up. I totally understand that. So we'll just go off the analytics here, and must win would have to be Florida in this scenario.
Yep.
That would be, you talk about detrimental, that would be the game that could potentially keep you out of a college football playoff. So that's the one I'm penciling.
I think you got it wrong, Shane.
Nah, of course I did. What do you got? Is it LSU?
It's all of them. It's all of them, Shane.
Yeah.
I think the only 11-1. Now 10-2, maybe if you're losing at LSU in a nail bite or something like that. But remember, you shouted out our interview. Go check it out, Neil McCready, if you haven't seen it. He basically said, hey, 9-3, that would be a career year. 98% of the time in Ole Miss history, 9-3 is a complete disaster. So we can't be losing 2 of these, because I'm already chalking up Georgia as a loss based on the analytics. That's the only one. So of the other ones to keep us happy, Florida certainly. I mean you hit that right on the head. But I think Ole Miss fans would demand a win over Oklahoma as well. It's a home game. Yeah. So we got to throw that in there. So maybe at LSU, because hey, you're firmly on the LSU bandwagon. I am not. But I'm saying I think Ole Miss beats LSU, but so I think they got to win all the toss-ups. I think they got to go 11-1 to keep this fan base happy. And 10-2 may get you in the playoff. It probably will.
Yeah.
But you're going to have a marquee win, I would think, if you're Ole Miss at 10-2.
Yeah, I'm with you here. And I think 10-2 you're good with, but 11-1 is expectations. This is the year, the last dance, brother.
Right.
So
Cousin Brandon says 11-1 or failure.
Hell yeah, he paid $5. Why wouldn't he be wrong?
And then we got a big one, Shay. Let's cue it up. Cousin PJ, say it with me, Cousin Mike.
Come on
now.
Thanks, cuz.
Thank you, PJ. Appreciate you, cuz.
$50. Appreciate you, PJ. So let's do Texas next, Shay. That's one where, in the alphabet, obviously I just learned my alphabet. They're coming in the backup a lot, but here we go right to Texas. Let me throw up their schedule. All right, so the toss-ups. They ain't got many, Shade. Just a one. Oklahoma. So Texas projects, according to CFB Professor, to be 10-1 in the games before the toss-ups. Okay. So Georgia, again, Shade, this is what it's like working with Shade, and you guys should know by now. Georgia's going to whoop the shit out of everybody, and then we'd say Ole Miss. Oh, Ole Miss could beat them. Texas could beat. Well, you can't say Texas and Ole Miss could beat Georgia, and at the same time say Georgia is going to steamroll everybody. So you can't have it both ways there, Shane.
This is me, Fat Shay, sitting there in the aisle while my wife's shopping for groceries, looking at an Athlon magazine, saying, "You know what? They could do it." Because as a fan perspective, I'm going to say it. I don't think Texas is scared to death of Georgia Bulldogs. Now, should they be? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it'll be a hell of a football game. But I do think that Texas-Georgia could quite possibly be a toss-up game. It's not on the computers. Who cares, man? They beat Alabama last year. That's what Texas fans are thinking about. Like, oh, yeah, big bad Bama. We took them out. We'll take out the next one. That's the Georgia Bulldogs. So we're going to get to see it, but I do think that Longhorn fans will think that's the only toss-up game on their schedule.
Okay.
But they got to beat Oklahoma. They got to beat this is, as per the computer, the only toss-up game is the Sooners, and that is a absolute must-win, especially since last year.
Right, yeah, and I agree with you there. So, right, and I did ask you, in fairness, I said, well, maybe pick a game or two that should be listed as a toss-up, and you clearly nailed it there with Georgia in Austin. I think Austin, based on remember a couple of years ago, Alabama went in there. My God, it was a madhouse. Texas should have won that game. There was some questionable officiating. So based on the home field advantage, based on how huge that game, it'll probably be for the number one ranking, Shane. Not only in the regular season, but the college football playoff, and who knows the advantages that go with that. So October 19th, you could talk me into that being a toss-up game, certainly, but I'll give you one other, and you already know where I'm going, brother. I'm sorry, PJ, I know you donated $50, but at A&M, November 30th, and this is not to say I'm guaranteeing A&M's going to be some damn juggernaut and Texas is going to be awful or anything like that, but just given the rivalry, given everything we know, it's going to be at Kyle Field, and I would really easily be believed, Shane, that Texas will have a better overall record than A&M entering that game. It will mean the world, I think, to A&M to knock Texas off their perch that they would currently sit in. So I personally would have A&M as a toss-up game as well. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I said that yesterday, that if there were one other game, that's the one. Just because it feels similar to, I mean, it's going to be a huge rivalry. It was a huge rivalry, and it's going to fire right back up. You know, you look at the Iron Bowls, you look at the Egg Bowls, you look at some of these matchups that shouldn't be close. They always are, because it means more. And like you said, there may be a scenario that A&M comes in with a worse record, but you know, it may be their Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It may be their championship. They may not get a trophy to put in their case, but by God, they're going to remind every Longhorn fan why they didn't get to go to college football playoffs was because of them. I just personally don't think it's going to be a toss-up game because I'm not like you. I don't hate Texas Longhorns.
You just hate the Aggies. Come on, Sid. Billy Lucci, friend of the show.
That $49, it's going to take a lot of those to make up for the money that I've lost to the Aggies. So, yes, I'm a little out on them.
All right, Shane, I don't see any other donations, so let's go in alphabetical order till we get another one here. Alabama, of course. Again, now this is a tricky one, Shane, because Bama projected, according to CFB professor, be 7-1 before the toss-up games. And so obviously Western Kentucky, South Florida, win. At Vandy, win. South Carolina at home, win. Mizzou at home, believe it or not, 9-point spread, so that's a win. Mercer, believe it or not, that's a win. And then Auburn, 10-point spread. So those are all the ones we're given not automatic, but just based on the projections. Very highly probability they're going to win. The only one that they have as a probable loss. Your most hated team, the Georgia Bulldogs, all of a sudden, as a likely loss for Alabama. So that means that the toss-ups, Shane, at Wisconsin, 4-point spread. Tennessee, 4-point spread. Both Alabama favored in both, though. At LSU favored by 2. And then at Oklahoma, the one that may have broke the computer, Oklahoma favored by 1 over Alabama. So the question, Shane, again, Alabama 7-1 before the toss-ups. How many of these toss-ups, 4 toss-ups, does Alabama have to win to keep that fan base happy?
Because we're penciling Georgia as a loss. I really do think that you got to win 3 of them. And because expectations are high, Mike. I mean, they may not be realistic, but there's no Bama fan that is worried about Wisconsin week 3. But by God, if they lose to them, they're got the wrong coach. Bring Nick Saban back. I could already hear him firing it up, especially before that Georgia football game. It takes a little while to adjust. You've not been in this rare air before, and you're in a transition, and sometimes transitions go smoothly, and sometimes they don't. There may be a few bumps in the road. So I think, just as a Bama fan, you're expecting 3 of those wins.
Right, and is there one in particular? Because there is one for me that. Not that they'd be happy, of course, but one that they will somewhat, they will accept the fact they lost. And there's one in particular that I'm pointing at. I'm just curious if you got the same one.
I keep looking at September 14th, Wisconsin.
Really?
And because I go back and forth, it could go either way. Like the wheels fall off, like we got the wrong dude. If you drop that game again, a game you were expecting to win. But it could go the opposite, and you could say, hey, think about this. If they lose to Wisconsin and Georgia, and I'm not saying that happens, but if they lose to Wisconsin and Georgia and then they catch fire and they win out, guess who's going to the playoffs? Alabama. And Wisconsin no longer means anything. Maybe you get another shot at the Georgia Bulldogs in the college football playoffs. I'm not saying that it's just not a must win. But I think emotionally, it's an important football game for Bama. So that's the game I've got penciled in as one that they could probably get away with.
Shade. If they lose to friggin' Wisconsin,
I'm not.
Caleb DeBoer's his ass is gone by the next day. We cannot be losing games like this, Shade. So I get your logic. New coach, all that. But we got the Georgia game right now. He could win them all back by beating Georgia.
Yeah.
And I know I've been bashing you about all this Georgia stuff, but I would call that a toss-up. I really would. Just because I think that's Bama's Super Bowl. I think that would, Caleb DeBoer, if he wins that game, all of a sudden, everybody in the world is going to recognize this guy as one of the probably top 3, 4, 5 coaches in all the country. And he would, and they get it at home. I mean, this ain't going to be no cakewalk. I don't know what I certainly would lean Georgia to win. I'm not sitting here saying I'm picking Bama, but I don't know. I think we're overlooking that a little bit. But the one I was talking about, Shane, was November 9th at LSU. Because, again, Wisconsin, I think that's a joke. You got to kill them.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, I mean, that's very tough. That's going to be a buzzsaw, no doubt. But you've owned Tennessee for 2 decades here. I think fans they'll start to get pissed off if at starts to reverse the other way post Nick Saban. So
Yeah.
Wisconsin, Tennessee, Oklahoma, I think you got to win all those. And at 10-2 with losses to Georgia and LSU, you're still getting into the college football playoff if you're Alabama at 10-2. I don't see any way they keep you out.
No, it's a tough schedule. Six. I mean, you can make the case of 6 of those teams being top 25, maybe
Right.
3 of them being top 10, top 5 when they play. So, I mean, we look back at the body of proof that Bama went through. 10 wins, you're getting in.
Right.
But I do think that it's a little more forgiving to lose to Wisconsin early. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, Mike, because I told you I don't think that's a toss-up game. But because of this stupid program, I've got to discuss it. I think that losing one late is the one that people remember, and you never know who's on the bubble. And sometimes an ugly loss can be the one that doesn't let you in the dance.
Okay. Hey, Cousin Jared just gave us $10, Shane.
Hey, Cousin Jared, thank you, sir.
Big LSU guy. Save LSU for last so everybody keeps watching till the end. If that's what you want, Cousin Jared, that's what we shall do. But all right, so let's keep it rolling, Shane. Arkansas, again, let's throw up their schedule here. And again, according to the analytics here, Shane, tough to say, but 3-7 Arkansas is before the toss-up games. The toss-up games at Oklahoma State, at Mississippi State. How many they got to win to keep that fan base happy, and any that you kind of disagree with that should be a toss-up that is not currently listed as one?
I think both are must-wins. I mean, This is a must-win season. Kind of surprised Auburn wasn't thrown in the mix there. Hell, you can make the argument Texas A&M early in the season because, again, A&M, I think, is one of those programs that gets better throughout the year. Catching them early or, late September there, I still think you've got a good shot to kind of keep that point spread close. But, it is. They're all must-wins. And if I had to I guess that's where I'm gonna end it right there. It's just the whole season is a toss-up season, Mike. The future of Arkansas, because things are positive around that program. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's excited about the new basketball coach and all the cool stuff down there, and look how much money we were able to put together. And if all that is going, you're kind of creating another Kentucky. Even though they've been bickering back and forth, and it's, you don't want Arkansas to become a basketball school because it's a football school, brother.
Right.
And basketball can be great, but you can't have one without the other. And if basketball is really good in Arkansas, you're going to have some pissed off football fans.
Right. And so I think you nailed this one, Shane, because hell, even 5-7, which would be winning both your toss-ups, I don't think Arkansas fans would be happy. I don't think they should be happy 5-7. No. I mean, bare minimum making a bowl game. So any that I disagree with, I think you kind of nailed it again, Shane. I mean, you're on fire right now. I don't know what to say. But I'm thinking Texas A&M. And I know A&M has kind of owned that series, but, weird, freaky stuff happens in that game. We don't, despite what I've been saying, no one truly knows how good A&M and Elko are going to be. And remember, we'll get to them in a minute, but they're underdogs against Notre Dame in the opener. They're underdogs, Florida, week 3. I mean, you said it yourself. We could be sitting here at A&M. We're 2 losses, 3 games into the season. If that's the case, and Arkansas starts hot, I think that could be a toss-up. I truly do. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the one I have circled. Now, if A&M gets rolling, it ain't a toss-up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'll tell you this, though. They got some pretty scary mascots coming up. I'm looking here. I don't know what that blazing thing is there on August 31st, but it looks dangerous. You got the dragon, week 3. I see a lot of tigers, a big-ass, longhorn up here. They got yep. Oh, the pirate would have loved this schedule, Hey,
how about because of Brandon Shade? He says, my best friend is an Arkansas fan. I hope they go 0-12.
Thank you, cuz.
All right, how about Auburn, Shade? Let's kick it over to the Tigers here. Pull up their schedule. But again, so the Matrix got them. It was pretty good, Shade. 6-2 before the toss-up game. So the toss-up game, Oklahoma at home, they are underdog by 2, even though it's on the Plains. That's pretty surprising.
Yeah.
At Missouri, they are underdog by 3 at Missouri. They're favored over Kentucky in Lexington. And then next to last game, A&M at home, another toss-up, even though Auburn favored at home by 3. So again, Auburn 6-2 before the toss-up games. We got 4 toss-ups: Oklahoma, Mizzou, Kentucky, A&M. How many do we need to keep Auburn fans happy here?
I think you got to have at least 2 of them. I mean, maybe more. I don't know. I don't think you're not writing cards to your kids, tell them how happy you are that you got an 8-win season, But I do think that in the back of your mind, you're going to see pops of young talent emerge, and you're going to say the future is bright there on the Plains because of the toss-up games. And I think that is the big one is you got to win Kentucky. I think you've got to win in their minds A&M. Mizzou, Oklahoma, I do think that these will be top 25 programs, so you can justify a loss. But I don't think when they play Kentucky and A&M, they will be.
Right. Well, yeah, it's surprising to me that Kentucky, I think, I don't know what it is, Shane, but fans cannot get over losses to Kentucky. So that is certainly a must-win for Auburn. They're supposed to be one of the mightiest programs in the country. But that may be, because you don't want to go 7-5 either, Shade. So I think you're right, 2 of them. So Kentucky's got to be 1.
Yeah.
And A&M perhaps, Oklahoma, Mizzou. I don't know. Obviously, we think Mizzou's going to be really good this year. I think in the preseason, you don't want to lose to them, but it is in Columbia. So I'd give I lean strongly towards Mizzou in that one. You know what I mean?
It's tough, ain't it, man?
Yeah.
It's tough. I'm looking at these, and I'm like, well, I didn't think, Oklahoma would be on this list. Yeah, I mean, hell, you could go either way. I told you yesterday at the end of the show, this is one of the teams that maybe I thought I think that's the problem. I felt like I was too hard on them up to this point. I felt like maybe my expectations weren't high enough for Auburn. And then after that show yesterday, I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't be sleeping on them as much. It did. I don't do power rankings, but by God, they moved up a couple of notches when you brought these numbers out.
Right. Well, again, you said it well, 8-4. We ain't crowning anybody over that, but I think that is a nice progression, especially if you can win the bowl game, get to 9. Yeah. And maybe, pull another upset, get to 10. I mean, I don't think Auburn fans are going to be pissed off if they go 8-4. I think they want to be 10-2, 9-3, which certainly could happen. But I think 8-4, they're fine.
8-4, if you could pair it with a nice recruiting class,
Exactly. All right, Shane. How about the Florida Gators? Oh, the schedule heard round the world basically here. So again, according to the model, Shane, Florida will be 4-3 before we get to the toss-up games, and boy, there are a lot of them. Miami's a toss-up, where the Gators favored by 2. A&M's a toss-up. Gators again favored by 3. At Tennessee favored by 2.5, and then LSU favored by 3 in Gainesville. And Ole Miss, also in Gainesville, favored by 2. Those are your toss-ups, Shane. Again, 4-3 before the toss-ups. How many does Billy need to win to keep that fan base from eating him alive?
I'm telling you, man, I think short of a 7-win season, some heads may roll. Definitely if it's under 6, which is projected to not make a bowl game, I think that's it. And 6, I could see you arguing that you keep them as if one of those toss-up games is a big one, like an LSU toward the end of the season or a Tennessee Vol again there in Neyland. Maybe something like that. So if you get 6, it's got to be against one of those. But anything less than that, he's in trouble. But I do think if you were to poll the audience, 7 is where we've got to be for the Florida game. We need to see some progression,
Some of these comments, Shane. Cousin Andrew, I'm stuck between blind optimism and grim memories. I like this one from Liquid. He said, sadly, the only toss-up games Florida is winning is in the video game and, of course, the Tennessee game. So, I don't know, Shane. I think, this is kind of sad that we're here, but we are. I think as long as you go 6-6, just given this schedule, any other year, 6-6, I may be firing a Florida coach in year 3, but given this schedule, which you got basically the same schedule next year, but again, you're hoping for more than that, but to me, Shane, it really comes down to Miami and A&M.
Yeah,
you lose those two, you're fired. There's no hope unless you somehow, some way, and I don't know how you would even do this, Shane, but maybe you lose them with Graham Mertz, who we think he's a good player. But maybe they lose those and we say, to hell, let's just throw in the freshman and he catches fire and he beats Texas and LSU.
Yeah.
That's the only way that Billy would save his job if he loses to Miami and A&M. And if he does, he's gone.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And kudos for Mertz. He decided to come back. That's a gamble, brother, because that's that little wild card you got in your back pocket that when things don't work out, I'm pulling out the freshman quarterback,
Right. All right, Shane, how about them Dogs? Which, unfortunately...
No toss-up.
No toss-up. So what we be doing here, Shane, again, 12-0, no toss-ups. Are there any? That should be toss-ups. And again, I've kind of already thrown it out there. I think that Alabama game, considering it is in Alabama, considering that... I don't know. I just think that'll be such a meaningful game. Still would lean Georgia, but yeah. I'm just saying, I think it's a little bit more of a toss-up game than people would realize.
Yeah, toss-up game. I the only reason I wouldn't say Alabama because it's early in the season. Now, if it were a little bit later, maybe. But again, I said that in the SEC championship. That wasn't supposed to be a toss-up. Then it ended up being a beatdown. So I would go Texas, obviously. October 19th. I don't know how many times I got to say it. I just think that's going to be a close football game.
Right.
It'll be down there. It'll be loud. It'll be rowdy. But that's the only true toss-up game I see on Georgia Bulldogs' schedule. And if you were to ask me which one, you got to win them all. You're going undefeated. I think short of that, you're going to be upset if you're a Georgia fan.
So here's where I'll disagree with you, Shane. And now I do like the Texas pick. I think you're right there. It's in Austin. Everything I said about Alabama, same thing for Texas. That'll be a prove-it game. That'll be we are the elite of the elite in the SEC if we can beat Georgia. So give me a toss-up for that Texas game. But even if Georgia goes 11-1, heck, I've said it before. I don't think this will happen, Shane. But even if they go 10-2 with this schedule, again, Clemson, who they may suck, but at Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, those potentially are all elite teams. So if you go 10-2, I think you're still getting into the college football playoff. But again, fans will not be very happy with 10-2. But the over/under is 10.5 here for a reason. So I think at 11-1, you're still probably the team to beat to win the entire thing. The college football playoff. So I think fans would be. They wouldn't be livid. They haven't lost a regular season game, Shade, at 3 seasons. So I think 1 out of 4 seasons would be acceptable.
I was going to say, I had hair back then. The last time Kirby lost a damn regular season game. So to say anything less than 12, you're lying to yourself because, again, you are used to it. And even if their schedule is tougher, you're still the big baddest in town, and you think you're not afraid of anybody.
Right. Well, I don't think they're afraid. No, certainly not. But, again, we're getting into a new era, Shane, where I'm not a big fan of it, obviously, but it's not about what you do in the regular season. It's going to be what you do in the postseason. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see. All right, how about Kentucky, Shane? Again, 5-5, according to the analytics before the toss-up games here, Shane. We're not used to being 500 in Kentucky. This is a proud football team here. The 2 toss-ups, Auburn at home. Auburn's favored by 4. And Louisville Louisville's favored by 1. So what in the world are we? Who came up with this damn formula? With the losses being Georgia, at Ole Miss, at Florida, at
Get
Tennessee, and at Texas. I mean, God, a lot of tough road games here for Kentucky. You know what?
I don't think Kentucky fans feel that Florida Gators should not be at least a toss-up game. I think some of them already penciled in as a win just because they're used to doing it. But
yeah,
but because they're not on this list, I think the must win obviously is Louisville. You beat them last year. It's a big game for just that state alone, and they're already chirping up there. They already feel like they got them a ball squad. So Kentucky has to win the Auburn one too, though. I think that anything short of a 7-win season is going to be a disappointment, and you're up. It's a weird situation that Coach Stoops in. You know, obviously there was the rumors circulating about him leaving and then him coming back, and now we've lost our basket. There's so much up and down, ebbs and flows up there, and I really think that Kentucky needs a little stability. They need to get back to that plus 8-win seasons, and 7 I think you could justify as long as we hit some more in the transfer portal.
Right, and yeah, I certainly think so, Shane. I mean, 5-5, that ain't cutting it at Kentucky.
No.
So give me a win over Auburn, win over Louisville. I think 7-5. I mean, I think Kentucky fans even expect more than that. But given this schedule, it's difficult. But I would say, Shane, I think you're 100% right. At Florida, that's a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is kind of something that you kind of teased last episode, I think week 2, South Carolina. I would lean Kentucky, certainly, but I think that's a toss-up because we just don't know what to make of over South Carolina. They could surprise, they could be terrible, and until we know that, I'm giving that a toss-up too.
If you flip-flop Texas and South Carolina and made this game in November, late November, right before Louisville, I think you got yourself a toss-up game. I just think that Kentucky's going to have a little bit more stability in their roster, and I'm just leaning more toward that. But not to say that it's not going to be a football game, because it always is.
And we've seen that Brock Vandegrift, like cousin Jonathan says, Brock Vandegrift, Shane, he's got that cell phone clip here that Shane's in love with that guy. You know what?
I am, man. I tell you what. If God built a quarterback, that was him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just look at the guy. If you're looking at a guy that can either throw a football or build your house, you know, you just know this is your dude. This is, you know, you hear Drinkwitz talking about his quarterback. It's okay if he dates his daughter and stuff. You know, I'd be all right. Brock wants to take one of my daughters out, you know?
All right, Shane. No transition from that, but let's go to Mississippi State. Oof. Rough according to the analytics, Shane. 2-7 projected before the toss-up games. The toss-up games at Arizona State favored by 1. So this is a near 50-50 ball game here. Toledo, oh no, Toledo. How is this a toss-up? I don't know, but only Toledo favored by 4. Oh my goodness. And then Arkansas favored by 4.5 in Starkville. So 2-7 before the toss-ups. How many of they got to win to keep that fan base happy?
Oh, brother. You got to win right out of the gate, I would think. You know, I think I'm looking at 2 at least. The Arkansas one would be nice. And not saying that it can't happen. Clearly it happened last year. But I just think that your best shot is going to be there in September. And folks, they get a little sideways, man. When you know, even when you get a new coach, a new team and stuff like that, and you see you see little flashes of how bright the future can be, it's awesome. But then when you just get destroyed by an Ole Miss or a Georgia or Texas or something like that, it takes a part of your soul. So I just want it for this fan base for at least the first 3 weeks to really enjoy this new coach, new program, and who knows, maybe they catch fire and catch some teams off guard. But I think you got 2 of them must win, and that's the Arizona State-Toledo game.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And again, not going to be thrilled with 4-8, 5-7 by any means, but being competitive in games at Texas, at Georgia, at Tennessee, at Ole Miss. Oh my goodness, Mizzou, which we think is going to be really good. It's you got to score. You got to score a ton here. Force turnovers. You can be competitive in these ball games. But I would throw. I don't think Toledo will be a toss up. I think that's a mistake. But I'll give you one, Shane. And I think I've said this before, but I know I'm high on them. But I think that game, Florida, I think that'll be crucial, Shane. Again, just imagine Florida. I don't want this to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but they could be 1-2 with losses against Miami at home and A&M at home, and then going on the road to Mississippi State, buddy. You talk about the perfect situation for Jeff Lebby to stomp Florida. Break their hearts in the season and get some real momentum. I think Florida could be a toss-up game for Mississippi State. What's your thoughts on that?
Boy, he'd get fired, wouldn't he? You don't bring Billy home. You just keep him in Mississippi, don't you? It's there, right? It's in Starkville, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Billy, just go south. You're back in Louisiana, son. You ain't
So
coming
basically,
home.
if you're Mississippi State fans, just fingers crossed that the Florida season just gets derailed early, because that may give you some real momentum.
Yeah, dude, I tell you, it's signature wins. I know that sounds stupid, but it is. It's when you think about some of your coaches that you've loved through the years, you think about some of those games that were like, oh man, this is our guy. That's it. You'll always think of that. You'll always reference the Florida game. You remember that time? Remember when Billy got fired? Not saying that's going to happen, Florida fans, but I'm just saying that's a pivotal one. I don't even think that's not a toss-up game though, is it?
It isn't. No, I'm saying it could be.
Oh, is it? Oh, it could be.
Could be.
All right,
Now,
sorry.
I would certainly flip it the other way, though, Shane. If Florida beats Miami with all their hotshot transfers and idiot coach, they beat A&M, which is in a first year, Mike Elko, they could be red hot. They could smoke Mississippi State on the road. So it cuts both ways,
Yeah, Miami's something's wild going on down there. I don't know. They may be discovered by week 4. So week 1, though, if you get a loss, you got to carry it for a while.
Exactly. All right, Shane, how about Mizzou? Again, 8-1, according to the CFB Professor Analytics before the toss-up game, Shane. The lone loss at Alabama, which I think even the most diehard Missouri fan would accept. Not they want to win, but they would go 11-1. They'd be fine with that, I would think, because you go right to the college football playoff. But the toss-ups, Shane, at A&M favored by 2, Auburn in Columbia, Mizzou favored by 3, and then Oklahoma in Columbia. This is the one Shane fans got the most mad about. Oklahoma favored by 1.5 point over the Missouri Tigers in Columbia, according to the CFB Professor. So 8-1 Missouri is before toss-up games. How many do they got to win to keep that fan base happy?
3 of them.
Oh!
No, I do think they'll be okay with 10 if they get in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But 11 wins is the improvement. This is what I'm seeing, man. Your quarterback came back. The best wide receiver in the game came back. Everybody's excited about what they're creating up there. They're basically building a stadium for this team. Now obviously they're not going to get to play in it, but it was kind of what catapulted them to this. It's almost that Johnny Manziel feel, They came in, just lightning in a bottle. They took advantage of it. So Mizzou fans' expectations have took up a notch, and I think that 11-win season is what they're expecting. But a 10 they'll be fine with if they get in a playoff.
Right.
Once you're in the dance, you can win.
Well, Oklahoma certainly, just based on the comments, that's a must win.
Absolutely must. Oh, what were the toss-ups again? Oklahoma, Texas
Auburn, and A&M. So I think
Yeah.
Auburn, you got to win that one too. I think the one you can excuse is at A&M. That's a very difficult place to play. But we got a fascinating question here. I want to run it by you. Cousin Andrew, he says, what happens if Missouri beats Alabama, finishes 10-2, But Alabama also goes 10-2. Let's pull up their schedule real quick, Shane. So again, Bama goes 10-2, lose to Mizzou. Got to believe the other loss, Georgia. So that would mean wins at Tennessee, at LSU, at Oklahoma, Auburn, at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I think Alabama's in the playoff. Would you put Mizzou in at 10-2 with a win at Alabama? I think you would. I think Alabama's success would help Mizzou in that situation.
Yeah, but what's their other loss, you think?
Let's just say A&M and Oklahoma. I'd still put them in.
Yeah, I think so, because it's tough to justify it. I don't know. If you lose to Oklahoma after that Bama game.
I think Mizzou's problem is winning 10 and not having a signature win. But we figured that out here in this scenario, Cousin Andrew, because he says, but beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa, that's a signature win.
That is.
Because most people say if Mizzou goes 10-2, I think what they're assuming is you lose to A&M or Oklahoma and you lose to Bama. And if that's what happens, you lose to Bama, and let's say you lose to Oklahoma, I don't think you're getting in the college football playoff at 10-2. I truly don't, unfortunately. And that's a factor of what game can you point to and says, well, hell, we're elite. It's not the last three. It's not the first four. It's not UMass. You know what I mean? Like, we're running out of options here.
I guess the only argument, maybe Oklahoma, depending on how good they are.
Right.
So, because I'm coming around on these guys, and let's say they're sitting there right there at the edge of the playoff spot, and you knock them out November 9th. I mean, that could be the signature win too. So, I don't know. I think that. So I'm trying not to make Bama a must win, but the more you talk, it's tough because, again, for all the good we've said about Mizzou's schedule, it could come back and bite them if they squander a loss.
Right. So I don't necessarily think it's a must win, but there can be no other losses. Is basically what it boils down to. If you lose to Bama, I think you got to go 11-1. Or just dominate the rest of your, go 10-2, you win by an average of 40 points per game or something like that. Maybe that'll get you there.
If you don't beat Bama, you're a failure.
All right. Well, speaking of the Sooners, Shane, let's tackle them next. Now, this is a tricky one. Wait, never mind. Boomer, you just got boomered because Cousin Rick coming in hot, $20.
Oh, come on, Rick.
Yeah, let's do A&M real quick here, Shane. So thank you, Cousin Rick. There will be 10-2 teams that miss the playoff, according to Cousin Rick, and I think he's right.
I know.
If their schedule doesn't, if they don't have there's some teams that could get away. Florida, 10-2, you're in.
Yeah.
But let's look at A&M here again. The CFB professors got A&M as 6-1 before the toss-ups, so that's a solid start. But the problem is, Shane, there's a lot of toss-ups here. Notre Dame's a toss-up. The professors got Notre Dame as a 1.5-point favorite. At Florida, he's got Florida favored by 3. Mizzou, A&M favored, but only by 2. LSU at home, LSU favored by 3. And then at Auburn favored by 3 because it's a home game, I would assume. So how many of those toss-ups, again, A&M 6-1 before the toss-ups, how many toss-ups does A&M need to win to keep that fan base happy year one, Mike Elko?
Oh, I don't think A&M would be happy with 2 of those 8 wins. Let's just call it like it is, an 8-4. I think they'll be okay with it. Anything less than that is not a step back, but it would be disappointing because I do think A&M is picking up steam, and they will be as we get closer to the season getting started here. And you got Vegas coming out here saying they're going to be 8.5. Now you're kind of putting your head around, okay, potential 9 win, maybe 10. Whoa, my gosh, what if we make the playoff kind of situation? And then all of a sudden, if you drop to a team like Auburn or something like that, you're disappointed. So even though the start of the season you would have been okay with a 9-win season. So I think in a long ways. I think 2 you're good with. 3 would be awesome, though.
Right. Yeah. And 3 would get you to 9, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, that would be a hell of a start to the Mike Elko era, Shane. But let me toss it to you this way. Would you go 9-3?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you beat Notre Dame, Florida, and Auburn. That'd get you to 9-3, which I think is highly believable that could happen. Right. Or would you rather take 8-4 and a win over Texas?
I'll take 1-11, long as the one win is November 30th against the Longhorns. So, again, I'm going to have a little more leniency with the Aggies toward the start of this year. I do think there's so many new faces down there, so many moving pieces. There's going to be some mistakes being made, and who knows? They got a lot of talent. I mean, there is a lot of talent there in College Station, and they just may mistake their way to a victory and be looking at a potential 10-win season. But I just think how you close it, because this is what you brought Elko down there to build something. You didn't bring him down here to, do a DeBoer and just take it over. He's going to have to, he's got to fix some damn holes that Jimbo left behind. And I don't think it's going to be as long as maybe some of these other schools, but definitely year 2. That just, a couple of big wins, a big win with Auburn, maybe a big win with LSU or Mizzou toward the tail end of the season. Definitely Texas, going toe to toe with them. That's what you want. You want to compete with everybody. You were brought down there to win championships, not just get to a bowl game,
Right. And I'm glad you said that, Shane, because that's exactly where I wanted to go with that, because it is year 1. It's and a lot of transfers and new schemes on both sides of the football. So Notre Dame, Florida, that would factor in why those are toss-ups. Maybe if this was like year 3 of Mike Elko, we would not be calling these toss-ups. But let's just say that Notre Dame and Florida both beat A&M, which is believable. But, you could talk me one way or the other. But the point being, Shane, and they get better as the season. They get more comfortable. They know what they're doing. Starting October 19th, Mississippi State, you get LSU at home. That ain't going to be easy. At South Carolina's never easy. At Auburn, that's, one of the best home fields in the country. And then Texas at home. It's not crazy to say that you could lose to a Notre Dame in Florida, but you get better and better and better as players get more comfortable, and you go on a winning streak here, 6 in a row, or 5 out of 6. I don't know if you want to count Texas because you got them in such high regard. But if you go 5-1 the final 6 with wins over LSU, Auburn, South Carolina, and Mississippi State, I think that would give you a lot of optimism that we got the right hire and that we're building something in College Station.
That's why I like that schedule. I do think that there's a real shot to make some noise late November. And that Texas game, I hope it's a football game, brother. Right now, obviously, I'm leaning toward the Longhorns, but
by multiple touchdowns, I think you said.
Yeah. Like 15, what would I say? 3 touchdowns, I think, 21 points. No, I'm just kidding.
I think you said 3, then you said 3 field goals or something.
So
9 points.
Yeah.
9 points.
Yeah.
All right, back to Oklahoma. Shade. This is another tricky one here. So according to CFB Professor's point spread, Shade, Oklahoma 6-0. Before we get to the toss-ups. But what does that mean? That means you could go 12-0, you go 6-6. If you lose all these damn toss-ups. The toss-ups at Auburn, you're favored, though, at Auburn by 2. Texas is favored by 4 in Dallas there. At Ole Miss, another toss-up, but Ole Miss favored by 2.5. At Missouri, you're favored, but barely by 1.5. Alabama at home, favored by 1. And then at LSU favored by 4. How many they got to win, Shane, to keep that fan base happy? Remember, they're 6-0, so basically 6 toss-up games here.
Yep, just a reminder, Tennessee is penciled in as a loss, not a toss-up game, which it should be. So
No, as a win.
No, I'm sorry, as a win. I'm sorry, Tennessee. Sorry, I got my big orange glasses on here. But at any rate, 6-0 is where you got. So they're not even considering Tennessee to be a toss-up. So
Right.
I think you could make a case that there may be 7 toss-up games on this schedule. And brother, that's why I said yesterday, Oklahoma, you're going to get your money's worth because there could be potential games. There could be 7 potential games that come down to the very last drive. And you talk about getting golly, that's what you signed up for when you came over to the SEC. So must wins. I think Oklahoma has got to have at least 3 of those. That's where they're at. Their expectations are higher than maybe what some SEC fans want them to be. And but I think a 9-win season is exactly what they're expecting. Maybe 10, maybe flirting with that if we can figure out this offensive line. But I don't know. I'm coming around on the Sooners too. So 3. Give me 3 of the 6.
Which 3 though? Because it is tricky. I mean, I think we would agree Auburn.
Yeah.
But again, see, that's the one like, okay, it's Auburn, right? But it's at Auburn. I mean, just good luck. You know, I mean, there's Georgia goes in there, Alabama goes in there. They need damn miracles or Brock Bowers to come out of there with a win. And I don't think Oklahoma's got Brock Bowers on their team as good as they may be. They ain't got that. But we're chalking that up. Let's chalk that up as a win. So then we're looking at we got to find 2 more. Shane, is it Texas? Who you're crowning? It ain't Texas in your book. I can tell you that. At Ole Miss. I mean, my God. At Mizzou. Is it Alabama at home? Is it at LSU? You got to pick 2 of them here, brother.
Mike, I think Auburn obviously is the one. So we got 2 here. Ole Miss, I think Oklahoma fans just expect to win that game. Call me nuts, but I don't think Sooners are coming into the SEC afraid of Ole Miss Rebels, which they probably should be. And I'm looking at Mizzou. That's another one. It's just, again, brand recognition. You got to remember, these guys have not been watching the SEC as much as we have. They haven't seen what Lane Kiffin's been building. They haven't seen what Eli Drinkwitz did last year. You know, last time Oklahoma and Mizzou were hanging out, they were kicking their ass every time. You know what I'm saying? So the times have changed, and so I'm thinking if you're looking here and you polled the audience, they would say, "Hey, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mizzou. Hey, I'd love to have Texas. I'd love to beat Bama. I'd love to beat LSU." But those other 3, those are the must wins in their opinion, or in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Look at me mind reading over here. Like I've been a Sooner fan my entire life.
Ooh, just as I look at this, Shade, I mean, this is daunting right here. So, I don't know.
You think they're afraid of Ole Miss? You think Oklahoma's afraid? Sooner fans?
No, I don't think they'll be afraid.
Yeah.
But it's at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, believe it or not,
home field advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, not much of one. But, I mean, we're talking preseason
Morgan
top
Wallen ain't even showing up to that one, you know?
We're talking preseason top 10. And the other one you threw in, Mizzou, they're going to be preseason top 15. So, and these are the easy ones, according to you. You know what I mean? So,
No. Whoa, easy. Don't clip that one. I didn't say easy. I'm just saying if you're just being true to yourself as a fan,
right,
and you're looking at book and you're saying, okay, I've got these toss-up games. These are the ones I think we can win. These are the ones that I think I'd like to win. I'd like to beat Texas. I'd like to beat Bama and LSU. At LSU, that is such a tough – you're Death Valley. Texas, you know how that rivalry is. And Alabama's got that stigma that, you know, they're always just the best. So I just think if you're picking 3 of 6 – naturally, you go with Auburn, Ole Miss, Mizzou. You don't have. I'm not talking looking at the depth charts and figuring out what they did last year or this computer program we're basing all these numbers off of. I'm just saying, a true fan looking at it. Those are the 3 teams. If you're going to win 9, you're going to win.
I think it's Auburn, Bama, and LSU.
The opposite, almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course you would, Mike. Of course you would.
All right. How about South Carolina, Shane? Unfortunately, according to the CFB professor, Gamecocks 4-8.
Oof.
No toss-ups, which is pretty wild here, Shane. Which I know we don't agree with that necessarily, but so which games we leaning with the Gamecocks that could be toss-ups? And we already kind of talked about Kentucky. That seems like an obvious one, even though it is at Kentucky. I believe South Carolina's won 2 in a row in that series.
Yeah.
So give me that as a toss-up. Seeing any others, Shane?
Kentucky is definitely the one that stands out. I know you've mentioned a couple of times potential trap game with LSU, but a trap game doesn't mean it should be a toss-up game. That means the opposite there. So I would say right now, give me Kentucky, possibly A&M. I'm not as high on them as you. I mean, how many times I got to say? I think I bring it up every time I see their logo here. A&M thinks I just hate them real bad. I don't. I just those are the only two that I could justify because it is at home. A&M is, and you know how crazy that place. That is a rivalry, Mike. You know that's dated back many years. There's a trophy that goes back and forth with those two teams.
How about I give you one here, Shane? I think it's
Wofford.
Mizzou. How about Mizzou, Shane? Mizzou will be coming off at Alabama, Oklahoma. They'll be beaten up. They'll be battered. And I think they'll be overlooking the Gamecocks. That'd be one I would circle. Not that I'm picking South Carolina to win it, but maybe we're going a little bit different. Not necessarily a toss-up, but more of a trap game, like you were saying. But
yeah,
that's kind of one I have circled.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. That's the thing. I wouldn't have that as a toss. That would be like the LSU argument I just made. That would be just a trap upset. I do hope that Clemson game's going to be close. And again, South Carolina. I told you earlier, this is a team that I think is going to be playing their best football in November, and coming off that rough October because it's brutal. The schedule: Ole Miss, Bama, Oklahoma, A&M. Then you kind of take it up a little bit. Got Vandy, Mizzou, Wofford, and shitty Clemson. You know, so if you can win 3 of those games, then all of a sudden I think you're okay potentially with maybe the 1 or 2 toss-up games we just talked about.
And oh my gosh, I forgot Shane. He's such a dumbass. But I think we throw Clemson in there because they got Dabo still as head coach. Yeah. They're always overrated, and the rivalry game. So, give me Clemson as a toss-up too.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Absolutely, I like to hear. This is when they start selling stock in get out. Dabo's done. You know.
All right, how about Tennessee? Shane again. According to CFB Professor, Tennessee 8-2. Before we get to the toss-up game, Shane, only 2 toss-ups. Florida, Alabama, both at home. Vols favored over Florida by 2.5.
Hey,
Bama.
Pull that schedule up. We're still.
I got it on mine.
Oh, all I got is Columbia here, South Carolina.
How about now? Okay.
There it is.
And then we got Bama favored by 4 in Neyland Stadium. Get the hell out of here with that. So the only projected losses at Oklahoma, which Shane don't even agree with.
No.
And then at Georgia. So how many wins you got to get here to keep All Nation happy?
So per computer, only 2 are toss-up, and that's Florida and Bama?
Yes, sir.
Well, you definitely got to beat Florida. You definitely got to beat the Florida Gators, right, Mike? I mean, Bama, we like to win that one. It'll be fun. We could take the uprights, throw another set in the river. That will be fun.
I think every time. Sorry to cut you off, Shane.
Yeah.
Every time you say Tennessee got to beat Florida, I think that's like an automatic missed tackle in that game for the Vols.
Yeah, I look over at my tennis shoes just sitting right there, thinking about those Florida Gators.
So maybe don't call it that. Don't call it that.
Okay, all right, but it should be. I think the only toss-up games that should, like, if this were my computer program, I would say, okay, Oklahoma, Bama. I could see those as the 2 toss-up games this year for the Tennessee Vols. I can't believe they've got us losing to Oklahoma just that easy. Because I do think it's going to be a good football game. But based off this program, I think the Florida one is the must win. Bama would be nice, Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of Vol fans, probably the expectations of winning that game are higher than it's ever been coming into that matchup. But you can't overlook the Florida Gators. I mean, the body of proof, Mike? How many times can we say it? It doesn't matter where this game's played. It's going to be a football game.
So do you think Tennessee fans will be happy, Shane, with 9-3 with losses at Oklahoma, at Georgia, and at home against Bama?
Well, I don't like to use the word happy because Tennessee fans are never happy. Haven't been since 1998. So I'm not expecting a 9-win season to make us happy. But 10 is what I'm hearing. 10 is what I'm hearing from just the guys at work. You know, my friends there on the text threads. This is where we're at. That, hey man, if Nico catches fire, we're talking playoffs. And if you don't make a 10-win season, then I think there's a little bit of a letdown just because of all the returning talent we have. I'm not saying that this is our last dance per se, but sometimes it does kind of feel like that when you've got the trenches locked up, especially.
Let me throw one more scenario at you, Shane. Tennessee beats Oklahoma on the road, no less. Beats Alabama, but loses to Florida. At Georgia. Would you be happy with that?
No.
10-2, beating Alabama and Oklahoma, you wouldn't be happy?
See, you keep throwing that word around, Mike. I'm not happy when Tennessee loses to Florida. I've never been happy. 41 years on this earth, I've never been happy when Tennessee walked away. So I could... You know, the thing to me with that game in particular, because before expansion, all that stuff, losing to Florida is what kept us Tennessee, out of a lot of SEC championships and kept Tennessee out of a lot of college football playoff talk, BCS talk, you know. So Florida has been a thorn in Vol's side for many, many years. So, yeah, I get the rivalry between Bama. That was like bigger for my parents. You know, not my.
So you'd rather beat Florida than Alabama?
Yeah. Is that stupid? I don't know, man. Maybe I'm an outlier or something. But if I was picking like the team, I don't know, man. I hate to say it. I would probably go. Because it's not fair, Mike. That's a loaded question. Beating Bama would mean more this year because it's Alabama now, you know?
Right. Okay.
But again, yeah, I just want to beat them both. Let's just beat them both. Can we just do that?
Okay, beat them all. You beat them all, Shane. All right, how about Vandy? Again, no toss-up games, according to CFB Professor. 3-9, just total. So 80 toss-up games here, potentially, for the Commodores.
I thought Virginia Tech was close. It was, what, 4 points?
5.
So 5, okay. So I'd make that the toss-up game. And you said South Carolina was close, right?
Yeah, South Carolina by 5, yeah.
So that may be – because with Vanderbilt, that's basically what it boils down to is I hope they win all non-conference games and potentially one SEC opponent. And then I'm picking one. And I'm looking at Auburn, South Carolina. If you're gonna have a shot, but it's not gonna be a toss-up, it's gonna be a upset, you know.
Shane, Tennessee goes 11-1, beat Oklahoma, beat Florida, beat Bama, beat Georgia, but lose to Vanderbilt. Would you be happy?
Again, you use that word. I will be content, but I will not be happy losing to Vandy. But absolutely, we're definitely going to the playoff spot. You know, probably an SEC championship too.
Right. All right, final one for cousin Jared here. He said, "Save the best for the last." LSU shades 6-0, according to the CFP Professor and his point spreads before the toss-ups. But that's the problem, though, Shane. There's a lot of toss-ups, just like the Oklahoma one. So our toss-up, Southern Cal, it's a pick 'em. No favorites there. Ole Miss, we're favored by 4 at home. At A&M, favored by 3 on the road in College Station. Bama, we're favored by 2 at home. At Florida, we're favored by 3. and Oklahoma comes to town. We're favored by 4. So 6 toss-ups for them LSU Tigers. Shane, how many we got to win to keep his fan base happy?
4, Mike. Gotta win 4. And I can tell you which ones. I think USC's a must-win. 2 years in a row, losing the first game against an ACC opponent. It's embarrassing, and it puts you behind the 8 ball. So I think that is one of your must wins. And then after that, it's just your rivalries. You gotta beat Ole Miss, or you gotta beat Alabama. I'm not saying that you could justify an Oklahoma loss or anything like that. Or shit, A&M's on there too. There's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I'm higher than most with LSU. And I think it's with good reason. I think the later we get in the season, people are going to get behind that pick as well. And yeah, you got to win 10. You got to win 10 games next year.
Right, and I think given the non-conference, Shane, given the fact that you got so many big-time matchups in the SEC, I know LSU fans don't want to go 10-2, but 10-2 gets you in the playoff with this schedule. So. Again, you win, you're not. I think Southern Cal, that's a must-win just because we started so poorly. Week 1's against Florida State under Brian Kelly. Ole Miss, I kind of disagree with you there. I don't necessarily call that a must-win.
Even at home?
I just think Ole Miss is going to be really, really good. I think it's more of a must-win for Ole Miss. Same thing we've been saying about Missouri. I mean, Ole Miss needs a marquee win, and this is one of their very few shots to get it. I think beating Texas A&M year 1, Mike Elko, that is you gotta win that one if you're LSU. Florida certainly I don't care where that game's played, and Oklahoma, that would kind of be the 4 that I would go with Alabama just being kind of the cherry on top if you can win that one.
Man, what a year to own season tickets, brother. I mean, you got Ole Miss at home, Bama at home, Oklahoma at home. Get to go to Vegas week 1. I mean, yeah, come on. Give me some LSU schedule.
Yeah, that's a great one. Well, buddy, hey, so we hit on all the teams. Went a little bit long. Got anything else before we hop off the line?
No. It's always fun talking about this and getting going. And like you said, the fan base, cousins out there already, I can see them in the comments there, just going back and forth. They're pumped up. They're ready for some action. So, brother, I appreciate everything. I'll be in a new studio next time we come on. So I'm losing the green velvet here or whatever this is called. I'm moving on to a brighter room. So hopefully I won't mess up this audio setup, because I think we finally figured it out.
I was about to say, we finally got it rolling, Shane. Now we're going to screw it up, but hey, we're going to improve it. You know what?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're just trying to put the best product out there, and I appreciate all the cousins hanging out with us. The YouTube numbers continue to grow, and I think we're going to hit 10,000 well before kickoff.
20,000.
Or 20,000, I'm sorry. What did I say?
10.
10,000, yeah. I'm sorry. I've been drinking again, obviously. I've had a couple before this show. But I appreciate everybody, and I better quit. I'm running out of words.
All right, brother. Well, hey, I appreciate you as always. I appreciate each and every one of you, especially those that showed up on the live show. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you guys.